Good evening, everyone. Let's get started. If you don't mind standing for that. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, today is Thursday, August 6th, 2020. The time being 6 p.m. The special meeting of City Council is called to order. This time, please silence your electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available in the back of the room. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Daryl Poling.
Daryl's not going to be here tonight.
Okay. Vieta McKenzie.
She is not here either.
Rick Emsweller.
Here.
And Kevin Fleetwood.
Present.
Okay, the only thing we have on our agenda this evening is to review the 2021 budget. This is the second budget workshop. You all should have received a updated copy of that and the summary from Reedy Financial Group. They did have someone in their office, they notified me yesterday, that has been exposed or tested positive for the coronavirus, so they are not joining us this evening on late notice. But I have agreed that we'll keep track of what we talked about like we did last time and send it to them for any edits, updates, and of course I'll try to answer any questions you have. Whether we can do that on the fly or not is to be determined. A couple things to note: the budget the revenues still include a 10% shortfall in property tax collection predictions. Betsy has informed me that this spring, we talk about this all the time, the 8.9% that we came up with. The county has collected $2 million since the disbursement, or since May 10th.
Between May the 10th and July the 10th.
Yeah, so in that window that they have the extension from the governor, they've collected more money than they typically do. So if we had a disbursement again, we would have probably collected almost all of our shortfall out of that. So that's a good sign for the long run, and it shows that people are still paying property taxes. Another thing you'll note in the budget book is that it was calculated, employee raises were calculated to 1.5%. It just reflects 2% because the software system rounds up. They assured me that it was all calculated like that. InPERS, FICA, Medicaid, PERF, all that kind of stuff was not changed based on the lowering of the increase due to the level of work involved in that. So it is still at 3%, meaning those numbers will be lower when actually spent. The last piece that is not included is the trash tipping fee increase in the sanitation fund. So, questions? You also have in your packet that was available online, I know there's been a lot of discussion about 911 requesting an increase to add a dispatcher. You have their budget that they submitted to us. And then there's also been a lot of discussion about the animal control agreement. Their budget is also included.
We talk about the 911 dispatch, just different conversations I've had, I think, and then their justification for adding a person, their initial justification for adding a person was they had a $40,000 savings in insurance. And so that's why they thought, that's not sustainable. So I'm not in favor of I think it's a $12,000 increase on our end. Actually, if we decrease it we could actually decrease what we gave them last year by $20,000 if we don't approve that extra position, basically. And that's my opinion. I think that's what we should do. I don't think, it's one of those where the initial justification was, we've got some money, what do we do with it? Versus there was a real need. And then my other conversations I've had, I personally don't feel like that need was justified, is my opinion on it. Not to say that I think there's better ways to spend that money. That's my opinion.
Well, I agree with you. I think there's better ways to spend it or not spend it at all. So
I think let's cut what we gave from last year by $20,000 because they were projecting a $40,000 increase or savings on their insurance, right? So not only would we cut the 12, but we'd also cut half of that 40.
So you wanna move it to 430?
When they requesting 450. So we'd strike the 12 plus 20, so we'd strike 32. So 428, right?
Yeah, 'cause this piece of paper we have shows 521 for city and 527 for city.
I was looking at 2021 department budget, or does it say 462, sorry. Advertised proposed budget, 462. Right, so we,
In 2020, you all appropriated, if you look at page 4 of the book, in 2020 total spending authority, $450,000. They actually spent 398.
On this one pager though,
They must have not been approved, maybe when it went to the county for that.
on the one pager it's showing for 2021, 527, 339.
I did look at this. Good looking at that.
2020 adopted budget.
Amy, what page are you on in the deck?
I was, it's page 4. Sorry, it's under the Board of Works.
Should we put these up there?
A little bit.
It's under, was it, the 001, under the, was it,
County dispatch.
Under
county
supplies.
district one? Supplies, sorry, yeah, supplies.
You guys don't make up any of that other. Oh, it doesn't include Josh Tressler's salary, which is paid for out
And
of
that's in this
public
number
safety.
here.
Okay.
It's in this one sheet, one pager, but it isn't, it paid for out of public
It's
safety.
paid for out of the public safety account, yes.
There we go.
So what
I
they're
was digging
requesting,
deep for that.
so what they're requesting is 462 is what I'm taking it at, right? Is that what they're requesting?
Because we take 100,000 straight off the top.
It'd be 427?
Oh, that's where you're at.
527, 339, 50.
I got one 477.
I'm with him, 477, 339.
That's what I have.
You take half of Josh's salary out of their one pager.
So you take 477, and then let's subtract, what would we say, 32 from that? So
Well, the
40.
one that he's got already reflects the $12,000 reduction in, or $40,000 in group insurance, because he's using this sheet, didn't he?
Right, well, they took the $40,000 reduction, but then they also added a salary in
So
there.
what you need to do
So-
is take off half of the $38,229 for the dispatcher.
Well, but then there's also their insurance and all that.
That insurance is paid by the county though.
But it's reflected in
It's,
this.
it's all reflected.
It's
yeah,
reflected
so-
in this.
So they, I was just saying it's a $40,000 savings that they calculated plus another 24 to pay the salary. So it's 64 approximately, right?
But this one that he's talking about, they're
Yeah.
showing the $40,000 savings for the insurance.
But then they've also added a person on there. That's what I'm saying. They've added that person, by the time you count their insurance and everything else, it's a $64,000 increase. So they showed the $40,000 deduction, but then they have a $64,000 increase with salary and insurance and all that. Because they've added a dispatch.
But they show a dispatcher costing $38,229.
That's just the salary, that's not benefits and everything else.
They show the increases.
I'd say we budgeted for 430, or 430,000 instead of the 450, and then I think we should be covered there. That's still an increase from what they spent, a significant increase from what they spent last year even. Should give some room if insurance goes up or they have some other expenses.
Yeah, they should, I mean, if we just take half the savings, and they're saving 40,000, we just take half of that from their appropriation on our math.
What are you thinking, Kevin?
I think that was just more confusing. Still, same arc. So this one changer that's sitting here that was given to us, this already has the 40,000 in health insurance savings in it, correct?
It shows $39,847 reduction from the previous year's budget. If you look on that line item.
Um,
4930.
Yeah, line 4930.
They're all 4930s, well, 12000.
Yeah.
Second column in the account, they show that being reflected as a reduction.
So there's a reduction.
And then up, under where it says 8 dispatchers, they currently have 7.
Dispatchers are 41,029.
Yeah, and they currently have 7
So get
dispatchers.
rid of one would be 41,029.
38,229. Look over on the, under the notes, it says 8
Mine doesn't
dispatchers.
go over that far.
Oh, that's
Cut
where,
off.
You've got, you've got a lot more than
Yeah.
that.
You got more, you see more than what we see.
You cut, yeah.
What's that
Yours are
box?
landscape, ours are portraits.
What's
got it all
what's the
cut off.
box say?
The 2021 notes is where it
Okay,
is.
it's
it's in the notes, and it says 8 dispatchers at $38,229 apiece.
Okay, so 38,239.
229.
But you can also take off some social security, perf, and.
So how much is social security for one person, per for one person?
0765.
We could take those and divide them by 8, well, I guess, right?
Maybe not.
Well, maybe not quite. The other side of it is it's a rank pay, because they were gonna add another supervisor was the plan, and so it's not just a dispatcher, it's another supervisor. So you could take away the rank pay for, one person as well. So
So you just use the 38,229 and the rate pay of 15,542.
well, 15,542 divided by 4, it's like,
7.65%.
well, I think 4 for that.
Oh, perf. Percent for perf,
15,542.
11.2.
11.2.
That's the employer share.
Yeah, the employer's share is 11.2. Kind of like thinking. I know
Right, well,
that.
that's
Then you're-
civilian though, I don't know what the.
Yeah.
Take your,
Police and fire.
take your 57,861, divide it by
No, I guess so.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I don't know how many
Right.
group insurances are in that number.
I don't need.
And then your social security, your PERF, you could add, and the group insurance, you could add those all up and then divide it by 12 approximately, I would assume.
Well, the perf in that
I don't know if that number's.
social security compute.
Four, 428 plus 89,934 plus.
Perf and FICA Medicare is 7206.
What was that one?
Hey, Mayor, there's 16 dispatchers, including the director.
No, I gotta use it, Kevin, because my glasses are fogging so bad, I just can't, I gave up on them.
I'll just hold out real quick.
They have 16 dispatchers?
Plus the director.
Plus the director.
Or, I'm sorry, 16 dispatchers including
including.
the director, yes.
So take those numbers divided by 16.
How come they're not reflected on?
Well, some, are you looking at both statewide and countywide, or which one are you looking at? Because see, statewide and countywide, they're split. I'm not sure exactly how they got them split, but, so in your countywide dispatchers, it's showing for 2021 requested 305,832.
And that's eight, if you take 8 times that 38,229, you get that number.
Yes.
So the other eight aren't included in this budget at all.
And then on your statewide 911 for 2021, it has dispatchers as 344,067. So half is coming, roughly almost half is coming from both county and statewide. So you got two different polling from. It's confusing.
So the group insurance is probably only for
About half.
that same half, probably 8 of them. I know, that sounds high, 30,000 apiece.
Well, that is six.
And the county's family is no family coverage.
Yeah, the county's insurance rate is really high.
So the breakdown is director, assistant director, day shift supervisor, night shift supervisor, and 2 shifts of six dispatchers.
16.
Which is about 1,000 per person.
Divided by 16, for single coverage, it's still 16, 17, almost 18,000.
Over 18, 16%.
So do you wanna go with 430?
My suggestion.
The math works out a little bit.
So 82,000. It's what I think it costs. Close, just about.
Okay. So we will move dispatch to 430. Okay. I believe animal control is on
Council.
council.
It's on the page 3. 430, yes.
I don't recall, oh, crap. Where did she go? These didn't print off either. Apparently the printer and Kristen were not getting along today.
Yeah, she's sitting at her desk, I bet she's trying not to print.
Jamie had asked about, and we had this conversation last time about this, the income. It was explained to me that the income is already reflected out of the spade and neuter line items that they, and they still did not provide an income statement, if you will, but instead sent this, like, letter.
But they've given that to us before.
Hmm?
They've given that to us before.
Yeah, that was new. The letter and this, like,
We got this like 3 councils.
oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they provided as their income statement.
So somebody's considered a budget workshop for one.
And they told, again, they said that it already came out of the, one that is spade and neuter or vet bills or however it's labeled. The, oh, did you print this? Cause it's all cut off at the bottom. We only have like a certain piece of it.
It was all legal, so you want a full one? Cause it was Form one,
You have another
had- I got another one, had to be printed on legal for the.
One of those is on the back side, I missed that.
Here.
One of the first pages, I think.
Well, my biggest concern with the animal control shelter is service.
Those are two different documents.
Or lack of service.
Chief, will we able to get kind of any kind of report on how many service calls we've used them
It
for?
says 19, but this is
So,
21.
Look at the bottom of the sheet, it
No,
says
no,
which year they are.
Up here.
Yeah, none of it's dropped since it's
Right, but that's the full budget that was in the packet.
Since January of 2019, we have received in the city 309 calls for animal complaints alone. As far as mid this year, there was 30 times where there was no contact and 20 times where there was contact made and they came out. Over the past year and a half, we transported a little, about 10 to 11 dogs to animal control. I can tell you that has stopped. We are no longer transporting animals in our cars, so they are aware of that. The thing that we had issues with is if it was just a dog running at large, if it was not considered to be violent, then they were not coming out. Our biggest thing was, okay, just because it's walking down the street right now, it doesn't seem like it's violent. If you got a kid that's walking with mom or something, the kid does turn, or the dog does turn aggressive, then is that liability gonna come back on us? And then, like I said, after hour, it just depends on the situation if they'll come out or not, so.
And I explained to everybody in the email about the animal shelter and the budget at the county. Any further questions on that, or?
We're still handling like any type of dog bite, we take that call and then we forward the information to animal control. Barking dog complaints, animals running at large, we handle those. Bats, snakes, anything in the home, we handle those. So, like I said, a lot of times when we need them is for an aggressive dog running around.
Does anybody know what the hours are that there's actually, the warden or whatever this person's called is actually there?
I know they're not.
I speak from personal experience of calling them, emailing them, requesting their help on Facebook with a one-page detailed concern with no response.
I know they're closed on Mondays.
I mean, we,
So on Thursday, Friday, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., Sunday, Monday closed, Tuesday, 12 to 4, Wednesday, 2 to 6.
And they have a shelter manager, animal control person, and a full-time kennel tech, and a part-time kennel tech. All is listed along with overtime.
And I would say that my officers probably roughly take 95% of welfare check on animals, either vehicles in people's yards that are being accused of not feeding them. Our officers are actually the ones that are going out handling those calls.
But you said we had 20 calls this year where you made contact, so basically we've got their
Over
assistance in the last 6 months?
last year and a half, sorry.
Okay.
Since 2019 in January. Or, yeah.
You said that, well, there are 309 animal calls, but you said
Mhm.
30 times you tried to get a hold of them, nobody answered, 20 times you were able to. So the rest of them, we just handled.
We handle it.
On average, is that something animal control should be doing though?
On my personal opinion, again, I go back to the running at large, I don't think that, I don't care if the dog's aggressive or not aggressive. We've had issues, just like in my neighborhood where we've had several dogs running loose, for weeks, and we call them, they're like, well, if they're on the property, we can't do anything. Well, but they've seen them in the street, they go back on the property, so, well, we can't do anything. I just think any running at large, they should be taking care of it, because like I said, we're not trained. What if the dog ends up biting one of my officers? That when we're doing a check and seeing if it's friendly. So, I think all running at large, like I said, I understand that law enforcement's tied in with animal control, through the state statute and everything. So I understand we have some responsibilities there, but as far as us picking up dogs, absolutely not.
So we've done some rescues that they won't do, and it seems like I've been told by the callers that they, at that point, they said, well, we're just a humane society type of thing. Like they try to delineate, you know, an animal control is more of that emergency response function as state statute. And when they call for, you know, cat stuck or whatever, they tell them, hey, call the fire department, you know, and we don't mind doing it, that's good, you know, PR for us, but it's like, well, they just said, you know, it's just, the Humane Society, and that's not their big thing is spay and neuter and all that, so it almost seems like there's two different ways that they're looking at things.
And we get a lot of complaints from the community, kind of like Kevin's, frustration that they've tried calling out there and nobody will answer and get back with them, so.
And they're physically only open 19 hours a week. And they're paying people overtime. And then
The other side of this is we've used them for 20 service calls in a year and a half.
I have to go back and read our animal control ordinance, I don't, recall verbatim, but I'm pretty sure there's language in there about animals running loose.
What I think what Chief was saying is they have, by the time they get there, the animal has to be running loose. So by the time there's a whole bunch of disturbance and they show up finally, an hour later, the animal's back on the property, they're not gonna do anything.
But if they view themselves as the Humane Society instead of an animal control shelter,
Brenda, do you ever get fines coming through your office saying welcome to animal control?
No.
Because running at large is a city ordinance, it's not a state law. So, that would have to come in through the clerk treasurer's office. And there's other ordinances that would have to be written. And, like I said,
We don't receive any money for it. No one comes in and pays the fine.
Do they have authority to write tickets for
Yes.
city ordinances?
yes. They have the authority to write a state law too, because they turn stuff to the prosecutor's office.
For $60,000 a year, would your department be interested in having an animal control trained person in specialized vehicle?
When do you do that decision by?
How long you want to sit
You
here?
got-
Come on, Brendan, quick.
I would say in the state that we're in right now, we can. Just
20
'cause-
times in the next year and a half.
because there's all these cases that's not getting addressed. It's.
Well, I mean, I think.
The problem I'm running into, technically right now, I'm 3 officers down. So, I mean, my overtime for this year is almost depleted already. So, that's a problem I'm running into. Again, I'm gonna have money elsewhere to where I can do an additional appropriation to cover overtime costs. But like I said, that's what we're constantly running into is the overtime.
You would need to start this till the beginning of the year. This is 2021, so you got a few months.
And it's more than just the officers,
Yeah.
taking on, what facilities are you gonna have, where you gonna keep the animals, is it transfer, are they gonna reject animals since they're not getting any money from us? And
When it's the training and the scheduling, and
There's
if
a
you
lot.
need one, you need 3, because you need one for each shift, like the K-9.
Well, and technically, you could actually designate maybe 2 to 3 officers if you want to give them a pay incentive, that they would just be on call status, especially for your evening and nighttime, to where you call them out. I mean, yeah, they would get paid, but I mean, they at least get some type of restitution for being on call, so I wouldn't think you'd have to have one on at all times. It would just be a call out, kind of detail. But
Not really your desire, though.
I have the concern that Kevin has, will they allow us to take animals out there? If we take some money away from them.
Well, the problem I have with this is we are county taxpayers too. And while I know we share dispatch, we just had that conversation, we use them a lot. You have a lot more officers and more confined area. I understand that. I struggle with this one a lot because I also pay county taxes, and if we are not getting the service for it, and we're paying more, to the point of where we pay 75% of it, that concerns me.
But you're saying they've only taken like 20 animals that you've reported to them in a year and a half in?
No, this is responding wise.
Came out one time.
Yeah.
Found it
300
300
and
something. It's less than 10%.
And like I said, now not all those calls we called them on, because like I said, you know, we respond to see, you know, a dog in a vehicle, dog not being fed in the backyard. We handle all those, plus of course everything else.
Well, I just looked at the number of animals they take in. Where are they picking all those animals up somewhere? Because they have huge numbers of animals
I
in.
think they have people
They
dropping in.
We
drop
have a lot of
Or
drop-offs.
surrenders.
So all they're doing is actually collecting what's
Owner
dropped off
surrenders.
unwanted. They're actually collecting very, very few.
Yeah, because I bet if they, to the truthful, or had the statistics that the vast majority of those animals were owner surrenders.
That's what I figured.
Or dropped at night.
Or somebody found them.
95% of them.
Backdoor surrenders at midnight.
And I'm not gonna sit there and say my numbers are 100% correct, because again, I'm not sure. I can only read what is in the call for service and that, so there might be other times where dispatch called them on their own, and we just weren't advised, so it's not in there. So,
They don't really control, they just are the adoption agency, more or less.
It didn't used to be as bad as it is.
Right. I used to pick up my child that bit somebody one time.
and I can tell you, when we talk to them, the biggest excuse we get is funding. We can't afford to keep paying people to come out and
Good.
get the animals, so they just don't come out.
Well, their personnel budget's
What's up,
170,
I mean,
here's 70,000 for 19 hours a week.
Maybe they get bigger than
Just something to consider here, not to, I know we're talking about 2021 budget, but we budgeted, what was it, 55,000 for this year. And then I think the budget they sent the county was what, 170?
173,000, so
They're gonna come back at some point in time and ask for half of that. We only budgeted 55. So, I mean, at some point in time, we're either gonna have to do an additional appropriation, or we're gonna tell them that's all we're doing, because that's what we budgeted. Based on the ordinance, what we budgeted is what we're obligated to. On that.
And I think you could also interpret the ordinance to say whatever the budget was that they presented to you, 50% of that is what's obligated, which is what you budgeted. Whereas now this year, you know, they are presenting a budget of $210,000, and if you fund half of it, then yeah, you're obligated to that, but you also have the ability, according to the ordinance and my interpretation, and you can give them whatever money you want. You're not required to fund half of their proposed budget. You're just required to fund half of whatever it is that they're allowed to spend, if you agree to. That's where the ordinances get weird, is the county can agree to pay them more. And my understanding in the conversation with the courthouse is the courthouse just sends us a bill at the end of the year that says the animal shelter spent this much money, you owe half of that. And last year, the county told them that they could spend $173,000, and I think they were already up to like 80,000 for the year, so they're close, if not potentially beyond that. So I don't know what happens if we've never gotten that bill, and I don't know what happens to that bill if we do get it. But I've not verified that with the clerk treasurer's office independently.
Yeah, gotten any bills. They haven't gotten
Well, but they
any.
do them at the end of the year. they say.
Okay.
And there's been a couple times where we've had to call Jennings County Animal Control to come up here because our officers have had a dog pen, and that's our next people we can rely on is Jennings County.
I mean, that's the other thing I think we should consider is reaching out to a neighboring county and find out what they might do. We could give them some statistics on calls for service, number of times we needed assistance, and maybe see what they charge us to come out, because they probably have people on call, and see what they charge. And I mean, before we give, $105,000 for something that we're already talking that we don't have the service we want.
Fire chief said he wouldn't want to have to look into that for
Yeah. Let me do that. Oh, by the way, Brennan would like to have the dog pound with the firehouse. Says we'll gladly take a new building and he can have a kennel.
I've got a special collection
You
vehicle.
gotta put those dogs somewhere. What'd you say?
Brandon, I've got a special collection vehicle.
I apologize, we budgeted 55, but then we also gave them an additional appropriation of 75, so we actually budgeted for 62.
Take it how you want it.
All we did, we gave them 62.
Mark, you wanna leave?
Why am I here?
Josh.
The last year was 62.5.
Yeah, well, for 2020, basically, we budgeted 55, and then we gave them an additional appropriation of 75.
Why did he come to
And then 100.
They always send us.
I guess I'm not in favor of adding more than what we paid, more than the 62.5.
Okay.
But then also, let's look at what our options
Most
are.
would be 5% above, that's what
Okay.
I doubt.
So, I mean, so if you said, what, 66, 65, and, but I think we should consider what our options are for 65 and see what,
Right.
I mean, that's just what we're budgeting in there for that. What do you think, Kevin?
I think if we do that, that's fine with me, but I think if that's the route we're gonna go, then at some point in time, either there needs to be a separate meeting between some of us and you and county commissioners, and let them know exactly how we feel.
Absolutely.
And I can
You just
have
can't, you just can't keep going down this route and say, oh, we want 173, we want 210,000, we want 210,000. And call after call goes unanswered, complaint after complaint's never responded to.
And I think that frustration has been shared with them multiple times. I mean, I know of frustrations that have been shared with them. I don't know if I've ever called them and said, hey,
Okay, so
but, I mean, it's a county agency.
Okay, I guess my question is, what would it take to make there, to have a city part-time, animal control, who would still give certain money to the county, but we would have, the city would have somebody just responsible to the city limits, the part-time position. So you're talking about under 29 hours a week, they're only open 19 anyways, we would still use their facility. I'm just thinking of, Jamie said something about contacting our communities. I know a lot of communities, the city has their own animal control, it's the city, the county, and then the county picks up their dogs, and picks up their dogs. I don't know. That's a possibility. Again, I'll look into
Yeah,
this.
something need to check into, see
Yeah.
what surrounding counties are doing.
at this point, like, tell them, if they want to continue to get funding, the service gotta get, it has to be on par for what's expected. You know?
I mean, yes, I agree. I don't know, I mean, we're not gonna see that increase in service this year, so we're still gonna have to decide whether to double their budget or not.
I'm with Jamie at the
Yeah.
65.
So you wanna set it at 65, and we'll have a discussion, put them on notice, see what other options we have available.
I think during that meeting, though, we need to make sure, clear that we basically only budgeted 62.5 for this year with that, and that includes that additional 7,500. So when they come back and have a budget of 173, we're not, I guess, at least, my opinion is, we don't pay that, right? We pay what we budgeted.
Got that?
obviously, I mean, maybe we have to make an ordinance for an additional appropriation and move it down, I guess, or,
Okay, so we can have that conversation, the chief will look into some stuff, we may not necessarily, depending on the rest of our conversation this evening, need another one of these meetings for that, because we obviously have to vote on this at a regular meeting too. Is there something else? I know those were the two sort of bigger items.
so we'll have the first reading on the budget for September, and then finish in October.
That sounds like a plan. Kristen will put it on the agenda, the budget first reading, September.
We're gonna discuss it this time, for the budget for next year. Big company,
No. Okay.
If you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up, talk about on the budget?
Look through before I came.
I know Kevin's still flipping over there.
No,
You good?
yeah.
Okay, anything else? If not, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, everybody.